think my eardrums just connected.
It's time for Stages of Life Radio with Dr. David Klein. Have a medical question? Call 407-422-1212. That's 407-422-1212 or text 23680.
Well, isn't that a treat? Stages of Life Medical Institute bringing you Stages of Life radio show live right now. Give us a call, 407-422-1212. I am Melissa Fox, and Dr. Klein, David Klein from Stages of Life Medical Institute, is on board to take your questions. And, well, today we're going to talk about a lot of different things. It's not just going to be about Stages of Life Medical Institute. We got to talk about insulin resistance and pre-diabetes, and y'all better listen up. Hey,
or you're going to start believing the commercials that are on the air.
Right, don't believe the commercials. Well, believe Dave's
Believe our commercials.
Yeah, Stages commercials.
Yeah.
Anyway, and here we go.
All right. So in any event, so what I wanted to do today, was to try to address an issue that is actually quite common. It's a significant number, maybe a third of the people, 40% of the people listening right now have this issue, most of whom don't even know they've got it. And it's called insulin resistance syndrome. Now, why am I talking about it? Because I was watching the news, and on went this ridiculous commercial, offering up a bizarre product to treat, wouldn't you know it, insulin resistance, So what is insulin resistance, and why do you care? And the answer is very simple. It's because it is a leading chronic illness in this country that results in things like obesity. It results in dementia. It results in arthritis. It results in just about every chronic disease you can possibly have. So why is this not something that you may have discussed, discovered, or even enjoyed the possibility of up until this point? And the answer is very simple. It's because it's diagnosed so easily with a single $15, $20, $30 lab test that you would be shocked. You'd be absolutely amazed at how easy it is to sort through this thing and know exactly what's going on with your physiology. Why it isn't done more routinely, I can only imagine that the different types of excuses we hear. The most famous one, the most common one, the typical one I get from doctors is, I've learned enough already. Or there's another good one, which is, well, they didn't teach me that in medical school. That is my favorite one, okay? Because they really don't teach you in medical school what you need to know. What they do is teach you how to learn. They teach you how to find things in a library. That's what medical school is all about. Learning the vocabulary, learning how to wear the white coat, learning a little bit of attitude, and learning how not to puke when you see blood. That's really what medical school is all about. So I didn't learn about that. Therefore, it's not to be learned. So why do you care about this? The answer is very simple. In this day and age, with $10,000 insurance deductibles, you'd better take care of yourself, because the likelihood of you actually getting your insurance carrier to pay for anything is pretty small. They will pay for inexpensive, and I do mean inexpensive generic medications, things that many of the pharmacies and drugstores give away for free. They'll pay for those. Anything that's new and improved, anything that may be still under patent, has a brand name attached to it, you have to go through all kinds of gyrations before they'll approve it. And then when they do, you're paying for an incredibly large percentage of what this thing costs. So insurance is actually a sucker's bet. Why do you do it at all? And the answer is so that you don't end up with financial ruin if you have a catastrophic illness. It's the same reason why you get automobile insurance. If you bought automobile insurance that paid for every oil change that you had, for every tank of gasoline, and for every wiper change, you would be paying a fortune. So what do? You go ahead and you make a decision, an economic decision. How much can I afford to pay if somebody hits me? That's called your deductible. Then what happens? You start making other decisions like, well, do I want to have rental car insurance? Do I want to have underinsured, uninsured, all this other type of insurance? And you have to make a decision, an economic one. Am I willing to give up money in my pocket to protect me from financial ruin? So folks that are successful have a tendency to figure this out pretty well. Folks that are not would rather buy a bass boat, or they would rather go do a weekend at the beach or whatever, and then find themselves unable to pay for their kids' college education because they weren't clever about how they saved or spent their money. The same thing is true in medicine. You find yourself looking for ways to make yourself better, keep yourself healthy, and so People are out there all the time do-it-yourselfing it. The DIY approach to medicine is I'm going to go to the health food store and talk to some zit-faced kid and ask him what I should be taking. Then you get the product of the week. Not the way it should be done. Certainly not the way I would do it, and certainly not the way that let's say a scientific approach to this would go with it. You look for reproducibility and you look for consistency. So what is insulin resistance? So insulin resistance is not a weird concept. It is a disease state whereby the insulin receptor becomes dysfunctional, requiring your pancreas, which is where the insulin comes from, more and more and more of it to maintain a normal blood sugar. And then the blood sugar starts to creep upwards, and it creeps upwards, and it creeps upwards until one day you end up either peeing sugar in your urine, which used to be the way we'd pick up diabetes. Diabetes means sweet urine, all right? So we used to pick it up that way, or you pick it up on routine blood work, which might be done every 2 or 3 years to the average young adult. So by that point, you're done. What are they looking for? They're looking for an A1C because that was the most recent, quote unquote, advance in diabetic diagnosis. But in fact, that's untrue. Largely, it's misleading. So what do you want to do? What you want to do is you want to catch diabetes early. You want to get it before it becomes a problem for you, before your eyesight starts to go, before your kidneys take a hit, before your brain starts to fry because of the extra blood sugar that's in your body. So how do you do this? Now, I'm not the only person out there that can do this. Your family doc can do this. Your internist can do it. Your endocrinologist could do it if they listened. And the answer is this, is that you do something called an insulin to glucose ratio. Now, you get the blood sugar anyway. It's a $15 test, a BMP. It's a metabolic profile. $15 is all that costs, and you get all kinds of electrolytes in there along with it. And then you get an insulin for $20, $30 or less. We do it for $15. You may have to pay more if you go someplace else. And so then you look at the ratio, the numbers, the difference, the amount of insulin that it takes to get your blood sugar into a proper range. And then you know whether or not you are on the road to ruin. And if you do, it is a whole lot easier to fix it early in the game rather than waiting until you gain weight, start looking like a porker, and then come to me and go, I don't know what's wrong. So what is it about? If you find yourself gaining 4 or 5 pounds per year from the age, start at 18, now you're 28 and you've got 40 extra pounds on board. So I was corrected by my wife earlier this week that doesn't necessarily translate into 3 dress sizes because it might be shirt sizes and whatever, but you find yourself, okay, with a belt size that goes up. This is consistent. All of a sudden, that 24-inch waist turns into a 32-inch waist, which then turns into a 40-inch waist.
Apple butt.
And you start looking differently than you did when you were in high school. That's what insulin resistance is about, and that's what we're going to talk about in increasingly nauseating detail after these announcements.
Yeah, we're going to answer a text or two
Oh,
first.
good.
23680. We got a couple of questions here that are not on the pre-diabetes or insulin resistance
Which
topics.
is fine. I'm very flexible. Watch this. If you're on
No,
Facebook, I'm flexible. See that? I'm
No, don't do
flexible.
that. I'm not. There's no way I am taking your foot out of there. Okay, so anyway, do you see the top text?
Okay, number one. Okay, it says, what blood test do I do? This is Dr. Klein, not Jones down the street, for thyroid disease. The answer is very simple. I do a T3, T4. Okay, you're looking at the absolute amount of triiodothyronine and tetraiodothyronine in the bloodstream. Your body kicks out T4, converts it to T3. I'll look for free T3 and free T4. That tells me how much is floating around that's actually available to the cells, perhaps. We do a TPA antithyroglobulin. These are 2 antibody studies looking for Hashimoto's and other autoimmune diseases of the thyroid. And then, last but not least, thyroid stimulating hormone, or TSH. So you can evaluate the pituitary's interpretation of what's going on, and you can see what is actually being produced. If somebody comes out with a high TPA or ATG, I'll do an ultrasound, and then we figure out what is there and what is wrong.
See, there you go. Good.
Easy question.
Got that text in. 23680 if you have a question for Dr. David Klein. StagesOfLifeMedicalInstitute.com. There are so many things on the splash page, including information on how you can become a new patient and utilize the patient portal as well. 407-422-1212 is the line to get a call into Doc for the show, which is Stages of Life Radio, and we will be right back. It's News Radio WFLA, Orlando. Yay, we made it. Okay.
Always good.
Yeah, it is always good. This person asking when you charge for consults, blood work.
I'll do it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. How you doing there on Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, Twitch, and, of course, on YouTube. Thanks for joining us.
there,
Yeah.
there we go.
I think I got them all in there. Anyway, any questions for the doc? Go ahead and type them in. We'll try to answer them during the commercial break, which is about 2.5 minutes, because that's how we do. Yeah, I think I actually got that right. Okay, so anyway, tell us a little more about insulin resistance.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what we're discussing on the air, and we're going to come back and circle back to this. But again, insulin resistance is usually what is responsible for people gaining weight through their early adulthood through their midlife, and really up until becoming seniors. So you'll gain 3 to 5, 6 pounds or more per year, and it actually tends to accelerate as you get older and start weighing more, because insulin has two functions, two really important functions. One is it brings blood sugar down until it no longer works. And then it does something which always works. That's to lay fat down onto your midsection. So why is that important? Because people start getting rounder and rounder, and they can't figure out why. They'll spend thousands of dollars on liposuction. They'll spend thousands and thousands of dollars on other surgical procedures, all manners of garbage, snake oil, only to find out that the real issue is insulin resistance, which is treated nutraceutically in a very predictable, fairly easy way, but also medicinally. If you pick your diabetes medicines properly, even if you don't have diabetes, actually, you can bring this under control. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the use of metformin. We'll talk about the use of chromium, vanadium. We're going to talk about the use of inositol, berberine. There are a whole bunch of ways that you can bring the blood sugar and insulin down, reversing the weight gain, and then hopefully avoiding things that you really don't like, perhaps Alzheimer's or other dementia, and cancer. And you're going to think that I'm crazy about the cancer business, but I'm not. Elevations in insulin they're inflammatory. They make all inflammatory diseases worse. Cancer is thought to be induced by chronic inflammation. So if you get the insulin under control, you reduce your risk, statistically proven, okay, not once, but thousands of times, to reduce your risk of cancer. Yeah. So if you don't believe it, go in the National Library of Medicine, look up metformin and cancer prevention, and tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. By the way, anyone ask me what happened here? My dog stepped on me. It's a little teeny prints and everything.
If you look closer, it's a bite, actually.
No, it's not.
Yeah, their teeth marks there. I can see it.
Little prints.
Yeah.
It's exactly a dog paw print. I'm like, are you kidding me? Always something. Hey, welcome back to Stages of Life Radio, Sunday afternoons without fail, live at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope you're listening to us on either the internet at iHeartRadio. Just go ahead and search for News Radio WFLA Orlando. Or maybe you're in the north of Orlando. You're listening on 94.1 FM, South Orlando 93.1 FM, and all over the peninsula at 540 a.m. I am Melissa Fox, and Dr. David Klein is ready to take your calls at 407-422-1212 or the text line. If you do text us at 23680, please include a little bit of information along with your question in case it might be necessary.
Things like age.
Yeah, age.
Yeah, I'm a 62-year-old
gender.
X, Y, and Z. Yeah. Gender's important.
That works. Yeah, we got a couple more. Oh, here we go. There's one right there. You want to go ahead and read that, or you want me to pitch it to you, Doug?
I'll take it. I'll take this one on the chin. So in any event, so what we've got here is somebody and texting in is just fine, by the way. Yeah. While we do like hearing your voice, it's a whole lot easier to read a text. Yeah. So what do you recommend for a 63-year-old healthy woman? See, we got the age and gender, experiencing hair shedding, sometimes known as hair loss or alopecia. Normal labs, at least the ones that they checked. This will be very important here. She's receiving an estrogen patch at 0.5 milligrams per day, which is it's like kissing your cousin. And oddly enough, 100 milligrams of progesterone, and I assume it's orally per day. This is a mistake.
This
Okay,
is the problem.
This is the
These
problem.
numbers right, first of all.
well, it's a half a milligram of estrogen per day. So she
Yeah.
got the decimals in the wrong place, but it's okay. I do
Okay.
know.
All right.
So here's what the real issue is here. The patch is estradiol, which is just fine. That's the estrogen that you're going to want. Is the dosage adequate? Most of my patients, okay, and we do serial, sequential estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone levels. These are blood levels, not the dumb saliva stuff that's out there, or the put a drop of blood on this card and send it in, and then we're going to tell you your fortune. No, these are real blood work. You can do it. You can do it at Quest. You can do it at LabCorp. You can do it with us. We're less expensive, okay? But what it tells you is how to adjust these interventions. So the estrogen patch, the estradiol patch, is one of the most expensive ways to deliver estradiol to a person. The typical dosage transdermally in my practice is about 4 milligrams a day, which is 8 times what this lady is getting. The other thing is that progesterone, when given orally, hits the liver. It goes to the stomach. 80% of it's absorbed in something called enterohepatic recirculation. It's a big word, but it has a meaning. It goes to the liver and screws you up. So sex hormone binding globulin gets elevated, and wouldn't you know it, your estrogen needs increase because your body is tying it up. So do I use progesterone orally? Only under protest. I've got maybe 2 patients that take it orally because they just don't like using the cream. That's fine. We've got like 60,000 patients, and I got 2 that'll use the progesterone orally. It's also the most expensive way to get it done. So oral progesterone costs between $80 and $120 a month, but our creams for the estrogen and the progesterone typically cost our patients $28 per month for both of them.
Now, are these creams that you get cobbled together at our sponsor?
Pharmacies, like the pharmacy that I use almost exclusively is Pharmacy Specialist in Altamont Springs. Now, I used the parent company, the original company of this one, almost 35 years ago. So I've been sending business to these guys and gals ever since. They are probably the finest compounding pharmacists that I know. And I know lots of them. I used to make a good living lecturing to their organizations.
Right there off of Maitland.
Teaching them about how to make the transdermals and how to set these things up. So I've known them for many years. They do a spectacular job. Now, it's a mom and pop shop, so you got to understand that it's not part of a chain, big company, or anything else. And as such, sometimes they are technologically challenged in terms of getting prescriptions to them.
Support your locals.
Yes, they're excellent. They make my hormone replacement. They make that for the rest of my family who's taking it.
Some people in this house.
Some people in this room that are remaining silent and have been forever. So what do I have to say about it? Were I you, I would probably get blood work. I would be looking at minimum an estradiol level, a cortisol level, progesterone, testosterone. You need that progesterone, testosterone, and you're going to need a DHEA level because many of these things have to be looked at in order for you to develop a good hormone replacement therapy regimen. So what do I recommend? I would recommend a full evaluation. Now you're going to say, what about the hair? That's usually a thyroid issue. If you have inadequate testosterone and or progesterone, you're going to have inadequate thyroid secretion. No estrogen in your bloodstream, no TSH, no thyroid. So they all work together. It's like gears in a watch.
I like it. I like it. You got another one to text up there too.
Okay, what tests are needed to find out why cholesterol is high? Okay, now again, it gets back to the Swiss watch model. They have gears in there. They have escapes, these little things that flip back and forth to make those gears work in a particular way. That's how they work when they're not electronic watches, that is. And so why does cholesterol go up? It usually goes up because there's a problem with the liver, believe it or not. And why does the liver go wonky? Because that's where the cholesterol is made. It's almost always a thyroid-related issue. So when you see an elevation in cholesterol, 20% of it is dietary, and that's it, just 20%. So if you took out all the cholesterol from your diet, it wouldn't change more than 20%. It's very hard to take it all out of your diet. But there's almost always a thyroid issue causing it. So I start with the thyroid and work it from there. And the joke here is that you can cause thyroid issue. You can do it on your own, not having a structural or functional thyroid issue. You can do it with your diet. You can do it with your diet. If you're sucking down soy protein in the form of a shake or a bar or whatever it happens to be, it's going to bump your cholesterol up. And this is the funny thing, okay, because back in the 70s, they told us not to eat eggs, not to eat cheese, not to eat milk, because it would because you had to get rid of your cholesterol, right? So what did they do? They substituted soy and all this garbage. And wouldn't you know it, cholesterol went up, heart disease went up, and nobody did well with it.
Bad idea. Hey, we got a couple of questions here I want to get in, but we were initially talking about insulin resistance.
Yeah, well, you want to roll back to that right now and then pick this up?
I do, because we have, we're out there on the social media. We
Oh,
broadcast.
we better.
So
Oh, yes.
you can see Dr. Dave's beautiful mug. There it is. On Stages of Life Medical Institute. Follow us on the social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as well. And the question coming off of Facebook is, for insulin resistance, what is a good way to control it other than meds?
Okay. Well, first, I'm going to mention the meds first because it's not what you think necessarily. The medication that I use most frequently to get things started is metformin, and the reason I do it is that many of the pharmacies, but Publix in particular, gives it away for free. So all of a sudden the price is right. So attitudes about medicines can change very quickly. Your doctor does in fact have to write the prescription, but it's something that I take on a daily basis because it keeps my weight down. It's marvelous stuff. Keeps my blood sugar, my insulin down, and lowered my weight. So if somebody said, well, I don't want to take metformin, I don't want to take glyburide, which is the other one that I use with it, clemipamide, this was what the chemical's called, I will use something called vanadyl sulfate, which is a mineral. Vanadyl sulfate. Vanadium is a mineral. It's a transition element, and it was the first medication, prescription medication, that's now over the counter, which makes it not a medicine anymore, mind you. And it was called an insulinomimetic. It's called an anti-diabetic. Okay, it was the first one ever introduced in the early 20th century. So it is marvelous stuff, but you have to be careful with it. If you take too much of it, it can cause misery. So what's the dosage? Between 40 and 40 milligrams. You just have to go lightly with it. Best done with somebody that knows what they're talking about. Chromium polynicotinate. Sometimes they'll use chromium picolinate, but the polynicotinate's the better moiety. Those two things are very, very good to reduce insulin levels. So those are the two mainstays, vanadium and chromium. What else do you take? You need to make sure you have enough magnesium, manganese. You need to make sure that you have an appropriate vitamin mix. Why? Because things like inositol, which is an obligate B vitamin, is necessary for the insulin receptor to work. So we use inositol to treat diabetes. We use berberine, which is an herb, to treat it. Very much the same way that the metformin works. They work on something called AMPK, which is an adenosine monophosphate kinase, which is an enzyme system which goes wonky in the insulin receptor. So these are the sorts of things that we do that are non-medicinal, but they are medicinal. Just because something by law requires a prescription does not make it dangerous, and just because something's over the counter doesn't make it safe. So for the longest time in my practice, I didn't put these things out where anybody could touch them. We had a store, but you couldn't touch anything. Go figure, right? So then why?
Away.
Because I was afraid people would come in and buy stuff without my permission or my guidance, thereby doing damage, and I take that very seriously. Mm-hmm. So what do we do now? We put them out, but I'm there all the time. So it's kind of like, okay, if you need me, I'm right here. And the girls know when to call me when somebody looks like they're doing something goofy. If they know what they're doing, or they're listeners or they're patients, we don't mind it so much. But when folks come in saying, hey, what do you take for X, Y, and Z, they'll pull me out of a room because somebody is going to do damage.
Speaking of doing damage, boy, we just killed that 10-minute segment.
There we go.
Poof, I hope y'all learned something.
It'll never come back either.
No, it's in the books, my friends. 407-916-5400. We got a lot of questions lined up on the text line already at 23680, and the social media is on fire right now. So we'll sort all through this, figure out what floats to the top, and get to your questions right after this commercial break. Support our sponsors, won't you? Like Pharmacy Specialists. We talked about them already. You can find them at makerx.com. This is Stages of Life Radio. So, did you see some of the internet ones?
Yeah, what I'm going to do, coming up, we're going to talk about postmenopausal women and severe atherosclerosis, because those are two very interesting problems that you see simultaneously, very, very frequently. And yeah, you do go after them both. You go after them both, and so that's when we're going to want to wait until we go live.
All right, so Elizabeth, we're going to give you some radio love with that one. Marie, she's right down the street.
Yeah, let me get you. Can you move your move
I
that
just
to
don't
your?
want to hit your cup.
Yeah, there. Yeah, well, it's okay. She's looking to figure out ways to hit my chair to make it drop.
I know.
Okay, so let's talk with Marie. She's a 55-year-old female that lives in Lake Mary, where I used to live. Let's see. So the doctor makes me get Synthroid brand rather than the generic to treat my hypothyroidism. So what you've got is two wrongs trying to make a right. She told me that the generic for it does not work as well. Quite true. The Synthroid doesn't work either. Just so you know, it's just more expensive. So what is the right way to do it? And it works a little something like this. Synthroid has been around for a long time. It's been around for about 50 years. And it is a very, very fine, pure T4. The body has to convert T4 to T3 before it works. So 16% of the population without autoimmune thyroid disease, 16% have inhibition for one reason or another of the ability to convert T4 to T3. So if you're hypothyroid and you're taking straight T4, it takes a whole bunch of assumptions to know whether or not it's going to work at all. So you can use Levoxyl, which is one of the generics. And that's just fine. A lot of people do, and they save the extra $35 or $40 or whatever the difference is between the brand name and the generic. What I use is a combination product, which is T4 and T3. The one I was using was called NatureThyroid until they started having some production issues. Armor Thyroid's been around for, I guess, 100 years. Armor Thyroid has both T4 and T3. NP Thyroid has been around for a much shorter period of time.
Armor Thyroid is very expensive.
Well, it's actually not very expensive. It's about $1 a day. Okay, which is not that expensive when you get right down to it. There are people out there that'll spend that on, let's say, a quarter of a cup of a latte.
Oh, stop it! Well, then they're on their own.
Yeah, so it's about $1 a day. So they don't give these things away, and that's the way it goes. When I had NatureThyroid in my office, it was, I guess, 60 cents a day. So, there we go.
Yep.
I think we just hit the eject button for somebody.
I did.
So what do I think about Synthroid? I don't like it. Okay, I don't like the generics any. In fact, I dislike the generics even worse.
I just want to let you know that was George, our regular
caller.
Oh,
that was Marie. Poor George. Okay.
Sorry, George. He wants to know about acupuncture.
Okay, and then we've got a gal here who wants me to talk about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and supplements for that. That's actually a common problem.
Ooh. All right, stay tuned, guys. We'll hit the radio here in just a second and try to get in as many of your questions as possible. Thank you, Linda.
And thank you to the radio audience out there giving us all that applause.
Welcome back to Stages of Life Radio. Please hold your applause down. The doctor is in the house.
Yeah, the orchestra's taking up most of the room.
Yeah, you know where I'm from. We say orchestra.
Orchestra.
The orchestra was great tonight. All right, on violin, we got Dr. David Klein. Well.
In person.
I'm your bassist.
Yeah, and I'm not dying of serious illness.
Thank goodness.
I have not missed a day due to illness.
Hey, there's some questions, speaking of which, about the vaccine.
Yeah, okay.
The difference between the Moderna and the
What
Johnson & Johnson.
you wanted to know is the Pfizer and the J&J.
Yeah.
So the issue is,
sure?
Okay, the Moderna and the Pfizer are both very similar, both messenger RNA vaccines.
Okay.
What does this mean? It's a brilliant new kind of vaccine. It's a piece of RNA, which is similar to DNA, but it's missing a particular molecule of oxygen, and it's surrounded by chicken soup. Okay, it's a type of there's a lipid in there, and they form these little micelles, these little globules, and the messenger RNA is protected from it as it's injected, but also it's just irritating enough to cause a cell type, called a macrophage, to come in and eat it. When the macrophage eats the mRNA goes to the production center of the mast cell, the macrophage, and then it starts to produce these little, they're like little moles, little bumps on the outside of that cell, causing the antibody reaction. Very, very effective, and it works beautifully. So when I'd highly recommend it. Tess, my wife, got the Pfizer. She's just fine with it. We both developed very high levels of the antibody. The J&J is a little bit different. It uses a different type of viral vector to get the stuff into the cell. Very different indeed. It doesn't cause the same level of immune response. So what's the advantage to it? The advantage is that you only have to get one shot. That's helpful if you're coming across the border as an illegal, okay, and they want to hit you with something so that you might.
You're never going to go
You're
back.
never going back. You are going to disappear into the heartland of this country, infecting everybody you come in contact with, or at least 10% of them will. So what they'll do is it's very helpful there. It's very helpful for other sorts of transient populations, or if you're in a hospital situation, you want to get them back to the nursing home, you hit them with the inoculation, and you don't really care so much at that point that only 60% of them will develop the antibodies, whereas 96 to 98% will do it with the double inoculation approach. My money goes in the double inoculation.
Really?
And from seeing what's coming out of it in terms of the antibody response, it seems to be dramatic. So I have patients that got COVID. I got COVID. My wife got COVID. So it wasn't near as, just so you know, it wasn't as much fun as they say that it is. We
No
both
one
got
said it was
sicker
fun.
than stink. Okay. But I had an opportunity really to check my own antibodies level.
That was
Why?
cool.
Because I have my own lab. It's marvelous.
Sure.
I'd call my staff up. I'd say, okay, I'm coming in, so that way they could clear everybody out. And we would do antibody studies for myself and my wife. So I got the inoculation the day that actually it's on the third day of the infection. Didn't know that I had it. Okay, it's just the way it goes. And so I went and got the shot. That night I was told that I had COVID.
Whoops.
Yeah, I hate that. And so I was able to track my antibodies and my wife simultaneously over the next 8 weeks. So we did it weekly, plus or minus, and found that the inoculation speeded up the recovery period. In her case, the fact that she didn't get the shot, she was 10 days slower. But also she was 10 days slower in developing the antibody response. So getting the shot makes a huge, huge difference. How much antibody do you get when you get the shot? It's about 10 to 20 times than if you got the disease itself. So my antibodies shot up. Hers did not move, even though she had active disease. So what do I think? I think you get the shot. Which one? I would recommend the Pfizer. Why? Because you can do it on a 3-week cycle rather than 4-week cycle. But just as it is on the Titanic, as the boat's going down, the ship is sinking. Don't argue over which lifeboat you want to go in, because that's not your lucky number. You get in whatever's available. So if you show up and they say, well, guess what? You're going to get X, Y, and Z. You know what you do? You say, yes, sir, no, sir, thank you very much, and roll up your sleeve and go. So this is a matter of patriotism. This is not just a matter of, you're going to be told what to do. This is necessary for the country to get back to work.
Bummer, I feel let down. I'm signed up for the Moderna one.
That's good. That's fine. I got the Moderna one. It's just perfectly fine.
We do have a question we need to pose here.
Pose the question.
From Elizabeth on our website. Our webpage here. For postmenopausal women with severe atherosclerosis, can they use the hormone creams? And hormones are at 0. She says she's also got hair loss.
Yeah. Well, she's going to have hair loss. Her gonadotropins, the estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, are zeroed out, which is the direction they go in as you get older. Mm-hmm. What's older? 50 years old, 55 years old is kind of where we typically see folks, but certainly it gets worse, if it could get worse, as you get older. So the atherosclerosis comes from the lack of testosterone, as well as the inflammation that you're seeing from the thyroid not working properly. So you go ahead, you restore a level of estradiol between 50 and 80 is where your goal is going to be. Testosterone, again, easy to remember, 50 to 80. The progesterone, between 1 and 2. If you can do that, then all of a sudden the thyroid starts to work more properly. The likelihood is you're going to need a little bit of thyroid also, because as you get older, thyroid function diminishes. So when you do bioidentical hormone replacement, it's just not gonadotropins, but it may be adrenal, it may be a parathormone, it may be a lot of different things, but you don't want to limit your thought process because of the definition of HRT, or hormone replacement therapy, in certain areas. So what we do in my office is we look at the whole shooting match. We look at the thyroid, we look at the gonads, we look at the pituitary, we look at the pancreas. If you have insulin that's too high, these things don't work, which is fascinating. Parathyroid can go wonky. Lots of things can happen to make you sick. So what we do is we go in and do a very extensive workup. Okay. And then we start treating everything at one time. Why waste time?
All right, let's go back to the text line here, 23680. You're listening to Stage Life Radio, Sunday 4 to 5, live on News Radio WFLA Orlando. How much do you charge for a consultation, blood work, and follow-up?
Well, it depends. Okay, so if you're Medicare, the blood work comes for free. okay, because Medicare covers it all. If you're with Cigna, United, or Blue Cross, we typically send you out, or we'll give you the option of doing it in the office, which is faster and probably a lot better, but it could be as little as $200 to as much as $490. If you go out to the main, the big commercial labs, it's 8 times that amount. So if your insurance doesn't cover it, or if they don't like the diagnosis codes, you could have a bill up to $3,800. And I've seen this happen. It happened to me almost 20 years ago. I ended up with a bill for $1,800 because somebody miscoded the doctor who did the referral for me.
Oh, gosh.
So I had to write that check. So it would have been a whole lot cheaper if I'd paid cash in my own office than having gone out. So, that's pretty much what it is. New patient evaluation, it depends on the individual. It could be as little as $200. If it's, again, whatever your insurance copay happens to be is what it typically costs for the consultation. If we don't do your health insurance, then it could be as little as $200, could be as much as $470 or $480. So it's and it takes about 3 to 4 hours. So you're not in and out like a minute clinic. This is an all afternoon affair.
Get dropped off, send whoever's driving you for lunch.
Yeah,
maybe a library.
It is not a quick deal. We do not do a sloppy or halfway job.
Right there. Hey, we got another question here. Doc, I suffer from throat globus. Is that right?
I'm not really sure what
food sensitivity testing at the office. Do you do that? Might be environmental.
Yeah, okay. I think what she's looking at there is just basically phlegm production.
Well, you haven't told me about that. I get real phlegmy with certain things that I eat.
In the radio business, what are the 2 things you don't eat before you go on the air?
Well,
dairy and peanut butter.
Yeah.
You don't eat those things because they tend to cause the production of mucus.
Crackers.
Ask your family doctor, why does it do that? And the answer is going to be, well, I don't really know. And the answer is you are what you eat. Okay, and food has interesting influences on how you feel. So you can take somebody with arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. They can have just regular osteoarthritis, and you go ahead and give them an ice cream meal. You go ahead and give them a bowl of ice cream, and it'll make the arthritis worse. You take somebody that has thyroid disease, and you give them spaghetti and meatballs with lots and lots of Parmesan cheese, and it makes it worse, because food be thy medicine. Okay, goes back to Hippocrates. So what can cause you to kick out phlegm from your throat? Can it be allergic or can it be dietary? And the answer is yes.
Most of the time it's dietary with me.
Most of the time it's dietary.
There, Elizabeth. Milk products, cheese products.
Right, but it doesn't mean allergy.
No.
So you can do food allergy testing and be misled by this.
Yep.
So what is the difference between a food sensitivity and a food allergy? And the answer is something called immunoglobulin class E, or IgE for short. So if you have an allergic issue with foods, you'll pick it up that way. Sometimes you'll pick it with IgM in the bloodstream. But sensitivity and allergy are 2 different things. Food allergies themselves are actually fairly unusual, but food sensitivities are very common. Why does this happen? Well, let's just say that you have a food sensitivity to dairy because you have gallstones. Guess what? Okay, that doesn't mean that you have a blood-borne illness. It means you have gallstones. That's just the way it works.
Okay, we've
got
a couple more questions to answer and another segment to do so. 407-422-1212. You can follow us on Facebook at Stages of Life Medical Institute. The same handle for YouTube, and also text us 23680.
And if you go to stagesoflifemedicalinstitute.com, you can see all of our websites.
There
and there are
go.
many. There are many things to look at.
Just really land there and take off for points.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll be right back. It might only be like a minute break.
All right.
Yeah, so I was scheduling something. It doesn't look like it's going to take. You have a question online here about supplements for NAFLD?
Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Yes.
All right, no problem. That's okay. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. What does this mean?
Yeah.
It means somebody found either fibrosis or fatty deposits within the liver in somebody who's a non-alcoholic. So it's a disease that isn't really a disease.
That's misleading.
It's a finding. So something is wrong with your liver, and it's not alcoholism. Okay, that kind of narrows it down to about 100 different things, doesn't it? 100 easily. So could it be hepatitis C? The answer is yes. Could it be hepatitis A or B? And the answer is, well, maybe. Could it be hepatitis D, E, F, G, or H? The answer is, of course. What else can cause the liver to go wonky? So There are inborn errors in metabolism that can do it. You can see it, again, with insulin resistance syndrome. You can see it with hypothyroidism, and you can see it with gallbladder disease. You can see it with certain infectious diseases. So we're going to go over that in just a second with this youngster. And here we go.
Well, close as I can do. All right, did you get it all covered, or we need more on that one?
Well, I think I have, the only thing I didn't discuss was what do you do about it?
Thanks, Melanie. Did you get that?
No, she didn't, because I didn't tell her what she needs to take.
Okay, he's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, don't worry.
Hang on.
Easy action.
Welcome back to Stages of Life Medical Institute's show called Stages of Life Radio. It's pretty crazy how we do that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a coincidence, because
like
that's
a
also
theme.
the name of my business.
Oh, look at that. That's Dr. David Klein. That's Klein.
Yeah.
Check him out. Yeah, he's got 5 board certifications, and the guy never
I'm
stops
not done
learning.
yet.
I was going to say, he's still not done.
I'm still working on it.
Okay, so we were answering a question off of the internet, off our Facebook pages, Stages of Life Medical Institute, and Melanie checked it. She wanted to know supplements that you can use to treat non-alcoholic
Fatty liver disease. So NAFLD, okay, is the acronym that's used, and it's generally given to somebody as almost like an Academy Award for having something going on in their liver that you pick up on ultrasound, most typically, but when asked, how much do you drink? And if you go, I don't drink, then they go, oh, then you just have NAFLD, which means that you have something wrong with your liver, and we just don't know what it is.
But we know it's not alcohol.
No, it's not alcohol. So the first few things you want to do is to make sure that the workup is a little bit more complete than that. So have them check you thoroughly for hepatitis. Okay, not just hepatitis A and B, but also C. You want to get them all. So you look at the liver enzymes. So if the liver enzymes are just like moderately or modestly elevated, something is happening. More times than not, it's either going to be thyroid or it will be gallbladder disease. So typically what I do is I pull people off of soy products, because if it's thyroid, that straightens it out. It takes about 6 to 12 weeks before you'll see it on ultrasound. But in terms of the nutraceuticals, I use 2 things. And the joke is they both used to be prescription that were then turned into over-the-counter products. So if this makes them non-medicinal, I'm still amused by that. First one's called N-acetylcysteine, sometimes known as NAC. You take 500 to 600 milligrams 3 to 4 times per day. That might be breakfast, lunch, dinner, bedtime, or it might be just as you can take it. It smells a little bit like rotten eggs. It is not rotten eggs, but it will thin the biliary secretions, making the gallbladder drain, and thereby making the liver drain a little bit better. It takes the pressure off the hepatocytes, and wouldn't you know it, sometimes the fatty disease goes away. But it doesn't work by itself necessarily, so you add another medication called guaifenesin. Guaifenesin was developed initially as a muscle relaxant. It became known as a mucolytic, and you will know this by the brand name Mucinex. So I'm too cheap to buy the brand name, so I buy the generic, and it works just fine. It is the original blue pill, blue round pill in this case, and you take 1 with each of the NAC. What does it do? It makes sure that the liver drains, thereby taking the pressure, metabolic pressure off the liver. In the meantime, what else does it do? It drains the pancreas. It also drains your prostate if you have one. It drains your sinuses. It drains a lot of different glandular tissue because it thins secretions across the board. It doesn't have a direction finder on it for the liver. It hits everything. Marvelous stuff. You find yourself coughing, sneezing, and bringing up secretions from your lungs. So NAC, again, Mucinex. The NAC itself is actually used to treat things like cystic fibrosis as well as other respiratory illnesses. It works beautifully for this. So what else have we got there, my friend?
Well, I see someone answering someone's question on,
okay,
on the
this
internet.
This is fine. Good.
And I want to make sure that, and no offense to anybody if it works for you. Now, initially, in an earlier segment, Linda on our Facebook Live feed had asked how to take care of the insulin resistance without medication.
Sure.
Now, Luann is saying that she used keto, dropped her AC1, and she's off the meds now for 3 years, and does echo the diet is
that's
key
fine.
to everything.
The diet is key to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And coming off the medication's marvelous. It
Right.
all works very well.
Good
but
for you.
Unless you know your insulin level and check your insulin level,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know how well you're doing.
Right. And
So-
then she said it was keto as well as intermittent fasting.
Well, the intermittent fasting, if intermittent fasting is something that we all do anyway.
Right. It's when we go to bed.
We go to bed. We have an 8 to 10 hour fast. There are people that do religious fasting. We have all kinds of.
Sure.
This has been going on for thousands of years.
But the idea of putting your body into ketosis.
Ketosis just simply means that you're not taking in enough caloric load in order to keep yourself from losing weight. So every diet that gives you less calories than you have to live is going to make you ketotic. So ketosis is not a lifestyle. It is not a type of diet. It's just simply what happens when you do diet. So as you start to burn fat, ketones are generated. In fact, if you go out of control with your diabetes, you become ketotic. It doesn't necessarily mean healthy.
Right.
It's just a physical finding.
So, yeah, you want to check your numbers, Luann, and make sure that you are actually at the level that you need to be.
The key to the keto diet, the key to the keto diet is coming off carbohydrates.
Right.
Which, by the way, is something that the American Diabetes Association has been recommending for 60 years.
Well, carbs is bad.
Bad for you. So you did it. Congratulations. What they used to say, more power to you.
More power to you.
Yeah, that. I think that used to be the Duke Powers logo.
Oh, right. Well, they stole that from something else.
Yeah.
I'm sure. But anyway, so there you go with regards to keto or intermittent fasting. Sure, there are all ways of bringing your insulin resistance and dealing with prediabetes.
Yeah.
Diet is everything. That is a very good statement.
I prefer the South Beach diet.
Yeah, which is what?
No carbs.
No carbs. Now, see, I'm more of a Mediterranean kind of
That's
diet
fine.
guy. I like my oils and such, and,
Yeah.
and I
Well,
definitely like
the
my
thing
vegetables.
the thing with South Beach, you do that too.
Yeah. All I know is all basically
It's all the same
made
thing.
The same. The one thing you stay away from is processed foods and anything and everything
The
in moderation.
The center of the grocery store.
It's horrible. Bad.
Bad news. So what do? Personally, I'll eat a whole grapefruit every day, if not two. That thing is peeled and the whole thing is eaten. Because it actually takes more calories to consume a grapefruit.
But what if it fights with your medicines? I can't take it.
Well, what does it do? What does it do for your medications?
What's the medication acidic thing? Is that what it is?
No, what it does is it actually makes you a cheaper drunk. So the blood levels
so wait a minute.
the blood levels of the statins go up. So you just have to moderate that a little bit.
Wait a minute, drinking what?
No. So what it does, it dislodges the medications from the proteins in your blood.
So that's not good.
No, it's not bad. You just have to know that it does it. So if you're on Coumadin, it's a problem. If you're on Digitalis, it's a problem. If you're taking a high dose of a statin, it's a problem. But if you're taking low doses, it doesn't make any difference at all.
I think next show we do myth busting.
We could do that.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah,
or diet busting.
Can I bring in some of the stuff like they do on TV?
What was that one they did? Sure, right. No, not in my studio. Liver and what was it? The liver and grapefruit diet back in the day.
Oh, my favorite one was the Stillman diet.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Which is grapefruit and as much meat as you want to eat, and you would lose weight.
For a moment, until
you die. Each one of these diets, people lose weight.
Sure, initially because of the changes.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I'm going to put a stick of butter in my coffee and I'll lose weight.
That's a keto thing. Don't do it.
It's awful. Yeah. Eventually, the diet that you're going to develop is called atherosclerosis and heart attack. Mm-hmm. So, no, it doesn't work so well unless you don't like the person who's doing it, in which case you encourage them.
Butter, yum.
More butter. Here, have some more butter. I'll buy it for you.
Oleo.
Yeah, oleomargarine. Okay, is another poison. Mm-hmm. So, what do you want to do? The doctor suggests that you eat real butter, real milk, real cream, and go lightly on it, and you'll do fine.
Again, didn't I say that? Everything in moderation.
Moderation.
That's the words that I have lived by all of my life when it comes to strange foods or overeating or overindulging in anything. Everything in moderation. Okay.
Yeah.
There's no need to open up a can of peanuts and eat the whole can.
Yeah. So, my best friend, my best buddy, oldest friend, he just lost 20 pounds over the past 3 weeks because he came in the office. We did his blood work. I blessed him out and told him that he was consuming too many carbs.
Blessed him out. That's
and
how
that
we
he
call
was.
it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so I said, listen, I've known you for better part of 40 years, a little bit, 45 years. I'd really rather you stay around a little bit longer. So how about let's bring your triglycerides down, your insulin down, your blood sugar down by not consuming any carbs at all. 3 weeks later, he's lost 20 pounds. So we went motorcycle riding for a bike week. And he looked good. Honestly, it was pretty impressive.
Good on you, dude.
Yeah.
There you go. See, that's testimony you cannot beat. StagesOfLifeMedicalInstitute.com. You'll find all the different websites we've referenced and all the information about becoming a new patient, vitamins, nutraceuticals. That's the word. Thank you, Doc. Anyway, check them out. StagesOfLifeMedicalInstitute.com. Say goodbye, Doc.
Goodbye, and I'm looking forward to meeting you.
See you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Stages of Life Radio with Dr. David Klein. Check out stagesoflifemedicalinstitute.com or stop by 1917 Booth Circle in Longwood near the intersection of I-4 and 434. Call 407-679-3337. That's 407-679-3337. Dr. Klein accepts most